What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the next episode of Six Borough Sports. I'm your host, Rick Garino. It is Sunday, December 14th, and we have had a lot go on over the past couple of weeks. Firstly, you'll probably notice a little bit more of a change to the podcast coming up. You guys can see my ugly face now. I got a camera. So, we're going to be doing these in video and audio format from now on. I'm hoping to have those uploaded into YouTube shortly, as well as Spotify, and have the video available there as well. Going to be having more clips on the gram for you guys. We'll be starting a TikTok channel soon. And maybe we'll get into some more live streams as well coming up. So you're going to get a lot more familiar with my face. I want to get a lot more familiar with you guys. But let's get right into it. The biggest news of this week, the Mets, I don't even really know how to empathize with Mets fans because of how badly they clowned us for signing Juan Soto, but I can imagine that losing Edwin Diaz and then Pete Alonso back-to-back, just like ripping your heart out, that really has to hurt. It hurts me too, because Edwin Diaz is now going to the Dodgers. And that was about the only weakness that they had at that point was their bullpen, and they get one of the best relievers in the game. And apparently, David Stearns let Edwin Diaz walk over a difference of $3 million. I don't understand how you can possibly justify that when Steve Cohen is your owner and he has more money than God himself. The one thing that Steve Cohen promised when he came in to ownership of the Mets is that it was not going to be the Wilpons. But since signing Juan Soto, it's been same old Mets. Let's be real here. I missing the playoffs after signing Juan Soto, losing Nimmo, Diaz, and Pete Alonso within the span of 2.5 weeks. I mean, you guys are having it rough right now. I don't know how you make up that production and that clubhouse leadership. They were the de facto captains of your team, especially Pete Alonso. Yeah, you still have Juan Soto, you still have Francisco Lindor, but they're already not exactly the best of friends based on reports that have come out recently. And you can't rely on just them two when it comes to production in the lineup. When you're getting rid of two of your most productive hitters, that shortens the lineup by a lot. It makes you just a lot easier to deal with from an opposing pitcher's perspective. And Marcus Semien is not exactly a great bat to be adding back as a replacement at this point. Sure, he's good on defense. He's going to be able to prevent some runs. But are you really going to be able to win games 3-2, 2-1 every game, especially with your current pitching staff as constructed? I don't think so. I need to know what David Stern's plan is, because I don't even think Kyle Tucker or Cody Bellinger really help you here. Kyle Tucker, he only really plays right field. He's not accustomed to the other outfield positions. So if you sign him, that means you're going to have to move Juan Soto. Whether you teach him to play first base, I don't think he is going to be down for that. And two, I don't think you want to be paying your DH close to $750 million. As a Yankees fan, I can tell you, paying your DH a massive amount of money every year isn't a recipe for success. Giancarlo Stanton, God, I love him, but he restricts the lineup construction in so many ways because he can't play the outfield, and he's getting paid $40 million a year. And when you're going to be doing the same with Juan Soto, I promise you it's not going to end well. Sure, you're going to be able to rotate him in and out. You might be able to get Kyle Tucker to play left field, but he's a right fielder by trade. Cody Bellinger, he's a bit of a jack of all trades, but I really think the Yankees are going to sign him. I wouldn't bet that Cody Bellinger ends up on the Mets. You don't have any more top relievers left in the market, really. Robert Suarez just signed with the Braves, so he's gone. Uh, Tyler Rogers just signed with the Blue Jays because, of course, they get stronger and the Yankees really haven't done anything. And Devin Williams, again, have fun with that. That'll be a great time for you guys when he is blowing games left and right. So there's really not much else that can be done to improve the team unless you're trading with someone. But then again, you really don't have too many assets to begin with. Who's your best trade assets at this point? Acuna's little brother, Francisco Alvarez, who's supposed to be your catcher of the future, Mark Vientos, who's okay at third base at best, Brett Beatty, again, okay at best. There's not much plan that seems like is coming from David Stearns' mind at this moment, outside of just blow up the core for the sake of blowing up the core because it didn't work over the first 2 years that he has been employed. So he definitely has work to do. And I would not be confident as a Mets fan. I've talked to multiple of you already. You've told me that you're planning on even just boycotting the season as in general. And I don't blame you. Citi Field's a nice stadium, but it's not nice enough for people on my side of the Hudson to travel 1.5 to 2 hours every single day if you have season tickets and go watch that garbage pile. Especially knowing how much money Steve Cohen has, and David Stearns is trying to play Moneyball. That's unacceptable to me. That should be unacceptable to you guys. So, I don't know. Let me know your thoughts there. Let me know what your plan would be from the Mets perspective. Because right now, I don't see a route to competitiveness next year. The Phillies seem to be going all in. Schwarber just re-signed with the Phillies. The Braves are never going to go away. Yeah, they had a bad couple of last years, but they're still a quality baseball team that is always dangerous. And I just don't think there's anyone else in that division that's going to be getting worse. Maybe the Marlins, but they've been scrappy the last couple of years. I don't know. In other news, in terms of more incompetency from front offices, I have just about had it with Tom Fitzgerald and the New Jersey Devils front office, and losing out on the Quinn Hughes sweepstakes was the final straw. And I've thought about this since last night when I was scrolling Twitter and saw the notification come up, and it ruined my night. But I want him fired. Now. I want everyone in the front office fired. Now. Proper asset management. This is not only from his improper and poor drafting over the last couple of years. This is not from him signing free agents to bloated contracts that have not given you a return on investment. This is not from him signing these contracts or giving out these contracts that have no movement clause and no trade clauses for everyone that wants to sign with New Jersey. If that is the only way that you can convince someone to sign with the New Jersey Devils, you are not the man for the job. But it is a combination of all of those things. And between the extension of Markstrom, which no one was holding a gun to his head, saying that this needed to get done. Markstrom was already having a shaky start to the year. He's 36 years old, or going to be 36 years old. He was already shaky towards the end of last season. And now, He's with us for 2 more years. And he has given up 3 goals or more in every single start that he has played in this season. That is unacceptable. Unacceptable. You're an NHL starting goaltender. Vitek Vanacek was playing better than you when he got shipped out to San Jose. And Tom Fitzgerald, once a hand was rushing to give this guy an extension in October. Can we be serious for a second? This also goes back to the last trade deadline where Devils fans were begging him to make a move and bolster the lineup that sorely needed it after Jack Hughes was going down with an injury and they needed some depth and they needed reinforcements on the back end. But they didn't have the assets to trade for it. Number one, we gave up a first-round pick from the Markstrom trade. We traded a first-round pick for a 35-year-old goaltender. Cool. Thanks, man. That was great asset management there. All of our draft picks outside of Dawson Mercer and Luke Hughes and Simone Nemeth are not living up to the hype. We traded away Alex Holtz and got Paul Cotter out of it. Paul Cotter has been nothing. Really, he really hasn't contributed much recently. Sure, he's had a couple goals recently, but cool, man. Like, welcome to the season. It started 3 months ago. Where were you? Nice to see you show up. Anton Salayev, who was the Devils' first-round pick last year, or 2 years ago, has been tremendously regressing out in Russia. And the irony in all of this, and most of you on Twitter that I've seen discussing this have found this out already, but the two guys that we passed on, Marco Rossi and Zeev Buium, we passed on in the draft to take guys that are no longer on the team or not turning out to be as good as we thought they were going to be, a la Alex Holtz and Anton Salayev. So that is just a further kick in the nuts in Tom Fitzgerald's drafting history that has been completely blown up. Like, there's no defending it at this point anymore. There's no defending it. Outside of Timo Meier, which honestly, NHL Network was talking about that trade from the beginning of the season, from the moment that they knew the San Jose was going to move on from Timo Meier. And the amount of people that linked the Devils to that trade, NHL basically laid the groundwork for Tom Fitzgerald to get that deal done. It's been 3 years since. We don't have anything to show for it. We have one playoff series win that happened in 2023. It is about to be 2026. God rest his soul. But Ray Shero gift wrapped a young, dynamic core with a ton of cap space for Tom Fitzgerald when he took over after Ray Shero was fired. And now all that's gone. The young core is not young anymore. Jack is like turning 25 or 26, but he gets injured every season. Nico's due for a new contract after he signed an extension already. He's due for a new contract in a year and a half. They're going to have to somehow pay him and Quinn Hughes, providing that Quinn Hughes makes it to the free agent market. I don't know where they're getting that cap space from because they can't get rid of Andre Palat and Dougie Hamilton's contract even if they wanted to. And now we have a bunch of declining assets on the team. Andre Palat, Dougie Hamilton, Paul Cotter, that aren't contributing, and they're taking up so much money of our cap space right now. Part of the reason that we didn't get Quinn Hughes is because we couldn't move the contracts of Andre Palat or Dougie Hamilton. We wouldn't have the cap space to take on Quinn's contract. Do you know how maddening that is? When we get to see the Rangers dump off every bad contract that they ever sign, and Chris Drury just gets bailed out because he can send these players to the Ducks, and the Ducks will give the Rangers back draft picks, and you can't dump off these bad contracts for veteran players, even if you wanted to attach a draft pick to them. Do you know how incompetent that makes you seem? This team's window is so dangerously close to being slammed shut, and you have yourself to blame. You have yourself. It's it. Between not properly upgrading the team last year at the trade deadline when they were begging for reinforcements, this team was begging to break out, and you gave them nothing. You gave them, like, Cody Glass, who's been fine. He's been fine for the Devils, but he's been hurt a lot. He's been perfectly okay. But at this point, I heard rumblings of the organization starting to finally get on board with the thought of this, especially after the Quinn news came out. Harrison Blitzer Sports Group, please, I'm begging you, do the right thing and put this man on the unemployment line, because this man legitimately turned the best situation in the NHL and has ruined it. He's ruined it. I don't know how else to say it. The players themselves, they need to play better, but you cannot continuously come in second place. Those are your words, Tom Fitzgerald, not mine. Or have a hard time making trades to improve the team and being cutthroat with your own guys because you're too afraid to hand out a contract with a no movement clause or a no trade clause. You have to be cutthroat. If someone is dead weight, we need to be able to get rid of them. And you're hanging on to guys for way too long. And now, I am very apprehensive that we are getting a save your job type move coming from Tom Fitzgerald. He's going to be way overpaying for another aging veteran like a Steven Stamkos or a Ryan O'Reilly. Even though I'd like Ryan O'Reilly on this team. I would actually love Ryan O'Reilly to be our second line center when Jack comes back. Because that lengthens the lineup so much when we have Nico, Ryan O'Reilly, Jack Hughes, and Cody Glass as our four centers. And Ryan O'Reilly's a no-nonsense type of guy. But when you want to overpay for these aging veteran types because you think it's going to make us more grizzled and more harder to play against, but they still have bloated contracts and they're going to restrict our ability to make moves even further because I'm sensing an extension that will come with those. Those cannot be allowed to happen. You cannot be the man that makes those decisions because you've already proved plenty of times that you are not capable of it. And the Devils have to pray that Minnesota does not extend Quinn Hughes. That is all we have left. That's all the hope we have left. Is that the Minnesota Wild just went all in, hoping that they can sign Quinn Hughes to an extension, and he doesn't do it. Right now, Minnesota Wild are trending up. They draft well. They have a competitive team. They have a good goaltender. Shocking. Another goaltender that we could have drafted but decided not to because we wanted to pick Alex Holtz. I digress. There is a very real chance that we do not get Jack, Luke, and Quinn playing together in a Devil sweater. The time we might see that is in like 2030 for the Olympics. And that is one of the worst case scenarios that I can think of. because with the cap going up in the next couple of years, we're going to have room to pay Quinn. We're going to have to be able to move some contracts out to be able to pay Nico too and add some players around the margins. But this team, especially with the way they lost to Vancouver today without Quinn Hughes in the lineup, they just laid down and died in the first period, and then they couldn't overcome their mistakes because they came out flat, which happens way too often with these players. And that type of culture starts at the top. That starts with Tom Fitzgerald. You said a couple off seasons ago, Tom, no dickheads. Well, there seems to be a lot of dicking around going in this Devils locker room because they had a players only meeting the other day. Didn't seem like it did too much. Sure, they beat Anaheim 4-1, but then they came back today and undid all the good from that game. So, I don't know, man. Fire Tom Fitz. Fire every person in that front office associated with him. He was handed a golden ticket. And he crumpled it up and tossed it in the fucking garbage. And it's so hard to stomach. Because this team was supposed to be so good. You see the Rangers across the river. They are rebounding. They're playing better as of late. They had a really good overtime win against Montreal last night. The Islanders are in first place. The Islanders just keep winning. They're a lot less talented than the Devils are. That doesn't seem to matter because they're actually playing for each other. So, the Devils fucked this up monumentally. And I don't know if I'm going to keep going to games this season. I don't think it's worth it to at this point. Especially if Tom Fitzgerald is still employed by the organization. I don't even think they should have an interim GM at this point. They should be hiring Brendan Shanahan. He's not perfect. He wouldn't take the best situation in the NHL and completely fuck it all up. Because he doesn't know how to structure a contract properly and how to convince players to want to play here. And onto a little bit brighter of pastures. We have some Yankee updates, or a lack thereof. First off, Sonny Gray, fuck you. Go fuck yourself. You're a coward, dude. Congratulations, now back talking about how you wanted to go and be with New York when you first got traded here all those years ago, and then you sucked it up. And now all of a sudden you're talking shit about us. You're a loser. You always were a loser. I can't wait to see you next year in Fenway or even in Yankee Stadium. You're probably not going to play in Yankee Stadium next year. You're going to have a phantom IL stint. We won't see you because you're going to be too busy hiding from everyone in the stadium. We know that's going to happen because that's the type of person you are. Even if we do see you, we're going to pummel you, and it's going to be hilarious. So I don't know why I'm wasting my energy on this, but you're a loser. You're not worth our time. Have fun in Boston. Secondly, Devin Williams. Go fuck yourself also. Maybe we just didn't want you because you single-handedly cost us the division this year. If you didn't blow 8 saves and then blow a couple more games that we pulled out of our ass, we would have actually liked you to be on this team this year. So maybe next time don't cry about wanting to not shave your beard and go and be one of the worst relievers in baseball. I don't know, man. That seems like a you problem, not a Yankee problem. So go to all those fans in his DMs that were crying. I guarantee you that you were probably crying reading all of those because you're a fucking loser. And we saw that this year. So good luck with that, Mets. You got a real gem in your bullpen now. Have fun with that. Um, anyways, Brian Cashman hasn't really inspired too much confidence in the fan base recently with his comments in the winter meetings. Uh, he has been very vague in who he's talked about wanting to add. They've checked in on everyone, it seems. And like I said earlier, all these top relievers are coming off the market, whether it be Edwin Diaz, Robert Suarez. The Blue Jays just signed Taylor Rogers because like they needed more help in their bullpen. They were already untouchable in the playoffs this year, outside of the Dodgers, obviously. And it really doesn't help that the MLB offseason is already moving at a glacial pace, like it does every offseason. And this is just a quick tangent, but the MLB really has to step in at this point and sort of incentivize signing players from a certain window. We shouldn't be having players sign like a week before spring training ends with their new teams. Like that just seems very risky to make those type of contracts and getting these athletes' bodies in shape and ready to go for a 162 game season. I don't know. That's just me. I would like to be situated on a baseball team, not as soon as the end of March comes. But what do I know? We signed Ahmed Rosario for a 1 year, $2 million contract. And okay, cool. He's a good bench bat. He can play short. He can play the outfield, sort of. He's an okay ready bat. He was okay in the playoffs for this year, like fine. I wouldn't have considered him a top priority, but for $2.5 million, fuck it, why not? Uh, it seems like there is a little bit of positive traction around Cody Bellinger and Ime, the Japanese pitcher that is supposedly a phenom. They've been in contact with him, but again, no real signs of positive movement anywhere, really. Intangible movement, I should say, from the winter meetings. And I would like the Yankees to try and shore up their bullpen, but again, those bullpen arms are coming off really quick. I really hate that every team I have to talk about on this podcast is just completely inept outside of like one or two teams. It's so exhausting. I want to be able to have fun and talk about these guys. Not that I'm not having fun doing this, but it would be so much more enjoyable if these teams were all good, or at least half of the teams were good, and I could talk about them positively and not be such a downer about everything because the situations have been so bad that I don't know any other way to cope with it besides being a downer. But somehow, through all of that, the Giants got a win. And I know what you're thinking. They lost today. Exactly. They lost today, which is a win. Because they still have the number one overall pick in the draft. And at this point, if you were rooting for this team to win games, you're not really a fan. I'm going to say that again. Because there's a whole sect of fan base, of this fan base, that I cannot stand. That is I'll always root for my team to win the game. And if you don't root for this team to always win, you're not really a fan. No, 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 no. I am done with that pea-brained, short-sighted mentality. If you are not rooting for this Giants team to lose every single game for the rest of this season, you are not a real fan. And do you know why that is? Because if we keep winning games towards the end of the season like we have in the past couple seasons, that leads us to retain our front office and coaching staff. You saw how long it took for us to get rid of Dave Gettleman, and he wasn't even fired. John Mara just let him retire and go off into the sunset like he was some sort of good general manager for the New York Giants. But compared to what Joe Schoen has been, he's actually not been that bad. Maybe I was talking about Dave Gettleman a little bit too harshly during his tenure here. The Giants got embarrassed by the Washington Commanders today. I don't give a shit about the 29-21 final score. I don't care that they lost by one possession because the game was not that close up until about 30 seconds left when Abdul Carter forced a fumble. Congratulations, man. Welcome to the team. Maybe if you were attending meetings on time this entire season, you could have been doing that a lot earlier before this season was completely out of whack. But I digress. This team needs to be exposed. And John Mara's face needs to be pushed into this season like it's a dog who took a shit on the carpet. And it needs to be understanding of what it did. Hiring someone like Joe Schoen can never happen again. The Washington Commanders were on a 7-game losing streak. And you made them look like playoff contenders today. Darius Slayton dropping more passes. Jackson Dart almost getting a concussion again. It's his 5th time this season going into the blue medical tent to be checked for a concussion. This play calling is going to get him killed. He might be brain dead in 5 years. And he is your franchise quarterback. I don't think it's too difficult to scheme up some passes against a pretty bad Washington Commanders defense for receivers to get open and get some yards after the catch. So Jackson Dart doesn't feel like he has to do all the running himself and get all the yards himself. The other reason that we need to lose this game is because we have the first overall pick in the NFL draft right now. We're ahead of the Raiders, who we play next week. Yay. I already know we're going to win that game because the Raiders might actually be the worst team in the league. But us having the first overall pick with this QB class coming up in this college draft gives us so much leverage to trade back and fill the countless holes that we have. Maybe we can get a couple extra 6th, 7th round picks and get a kicker. That would be really nice. Watch Younghoe Koo miss 2 50-yard field goals today. Well, you get Jason Myers on Seattle bombing 6 field goals today. Brandon Aubrey they plucked him off the street. And he's nailing 65-yarders with ease. And the Giants can't get a consistent kicker on the roster. That's another failing of Joe Schoen. But we need to be able to extort the hell out of some team that's looking to get their franchise quarterback, a la the Raiders, the Jets, probably the Eagles next year. I don't give a shit that they just beat the Raiders because I could probably go out and beat the Raiders this week. But we all know the Eagles would need an actual quarterback. I'm going to leave that. And you guys can do with that what you want. Probably the Cardinals too, because Kyler seems as good as gone. And Jacoby Brissett is not going to be the future there. And I'm so sick of the fan base that's like, what do you mean you're not rooting for this team to win? That doesn't make you a real fan. You should always be rooting for them to win. You want to talk about how these wins build culture? What culture has that built exactly over the last 10 years? It's a culture that the Giants have the worst record in football since 2023, that they're in the bottom 3 of records in the NFL over the last 10 years. But I'm really glad that we got a couple of those meaningless culture wins guys. That great job. That's awesome. We're really building something. The Giants organization is corrupted, and it needs to be burned out. The corruption needs to finally cease to exist. I'm not talking about literal corruption. It'd be nice if we were paying the NFL referees to give us a call once in a while. That'd be kind of funny. But the level of incompetence that this Giants organization has been allowed to operate under since even before Eli Manning retired has made us one of the laughing stocks in the NFL. And at this point, the results need to get so bad that they are undeniable to John Mara and Steve Tisch and Chris Mara and Tim McDonald. The ownership group and the president of football operations need to come together and realize that they are better than this. Or at least John Mara should. He should be firing his incompetent oaf of a brother, Chris Mara, from football operations. Steve Tisch should be firing Tim McDonald. And it should just be Steve Tisch and John Mara at the top. And even then, I still don't have too much confidence because they still can't seem to make any right decisions. But maybe, just maybe, them picking first overall in the NFL draft when they are the first name called this coming April. Maybe that will be enough for them finally. Maybe they will say they've had enough and decide to make an impactful hire as a GM and for a head coach. So the only happy things that I can continue reporting on in this podcast is basketball. The Knicks are going to the NBA Emirates Cup Finals. Whoop-de-doo. Congratulations, Knicks. You guys are winning the midseason tournament. That's awesome. Yay. You're going to play the San Antonio Spurs, who just beat the OKC Thunder to get here, which is actually kind of cool because it shows that the Thunder can be beaten by a lesser team. The Spurs are a good basketball team. Wemby is a freak. But my favorite line from the movie Predator, if it bleeds, we can kill it. And that's what the Spurs just showed by beating OKC in this format. Jalen Brunson last night was sensational. 40 points. He was awesome. At played his ass off too. He had 29 points. OG was right up there. I think he had 24 points. The Knicks look great. Keep it rolling. They beat a decent Magic team who they are probably going to be seeing in the playoffs this coming summer. I'm not scared of them. I'm glad that they beat them, and they need to beat them moving forward. Go in and win this thing. Is it a little pathetic that the NBA needs to implement a mid-season tournament to get players to play in the regular season harder than they normally would? Yeah, a little. Considering that most NBA players make way more than the average human will see in 10 lifetimes. I just think it's gimmicky as hell. And you just, for players to be pulling load management BS after all this crap that has gone down, everyone's followed the Kawhi model. People are showing up to games and you can't be bothered to play 40 games in an NBA season. I'm thankful that the Knicks are not like that. They play hard every night. And Brunson is the de facto captain for the Knicks. And he has helped lead a culture of always playing hard. Him, Josh Hart. If we get Dante DiVincenzo back, apparently we're taking a look into him again, which would be pretty sweet to get the gang back together. I still need to get a Dante DiVincenzo jersey to pair with the Satriali's hat. That would go hard as hell. But the Knicks are thankfully the one team in the league that we don't have to worry about questioning their effort every night. We know that they are giving it. So go win in Vegas and go party it up because you should deserve it. And the college basketball scene in the New York, New Jersey area has been pretty freaking sweet to start the season off. UConn, I mean, beating Florida and Texas in the same week is no small feat. They just made the Gators look pretty silly. And then they just beat a solid Texas team at home in stores. Right now, I think UConn can beat anyone in the nation. They are as legit as a top 5 contender as anyone in the league. Michigan and Arizona are just about the only real threats to them at this point. So I'm fully expecting UConn to at least make an Elite 8 in March, based on how they're playing right now. Football. That sequence the other night, while the clock was expiring and you just throwing up like a 35-foot, just nothing but net as the shot clock expired was so sick. I jumped out of my chair watching that. So, UConn, keep doing what you're doing, representing the Big East well. St. John's getting back on track and beating Rick Pitino's old Iona Gales pretty handily at the Garden yesterday afternoon. They look good doing it. Not too worried about them. They have had a very hard schedule. They're 0-3 in quad one opportunities at the moment. But I'm not really worried about St. John's. They're going to be a tournament team, no problem. They'll probably get to a Sweet 16. And they're going to beat a lot of good teams coming up in conference play. The Providence Butler Bulldogs game that we saw yesterday, I know we don't really cover it, but we are talking Big East basketball at the moment. That was an awesome game going into double overtime. I don't have too much more comments on that, but that game rocked. And I enjoyed watching it as the first conference Big East game that we got this season. And lastly, how about those Seton Hall Pirates, baby? What a win, you know. What a beatdown. It's just straight bell to ass on those losers from Piscataway. With no NBA lottery picks to squeak out a win against this, you know, like they didn't need them to come save them because there was no saving them this time. We, from wire to wire, we led the entire time. And the rock was rocking. It was a great crowd. But I do have one bone to pick. I don't understand what is going on with the Seton Hall student. Why am I seeing tweets come from the athletic department 24 hours before the game that there are still seats available in the student section for purchase? When we went to Seton Hall and Seton Hall had a good team, we showed up. The student section was always packed. Those years from 2013 through 2020, and even in 2021, 2022, when the teams were good, those student sections were packed. Because we knew we had a good team, and it's the only thing cool that Seton Hall had to rally around. Right? We don't have a football team. Our other sports are fine. Like, yeah, we made the tournament for soccer this year, but is anyone really watching NCAA Division I soccer? Is anyone on the campus really going to that? I don't think so. Basketball is all we have. It is not lame to go to games. Guys, come on. They are fun as hell. Drink beforehand so you're not having to pay for drinks at the Prudential Center. I know you're college kids, they're expensive there. Get your natty lights, get drunk, get rowdy, and go to the games. That game should have been sold out weeks in advance for the student section. It was an awesome game, and everyone looked like they had a great time. This team is going to need your support going into Big East play. Because we are a good team. And do you know how discouraging it would be for them to be playing their asses off and giving the entire Pirate Nation a reason to cheer? And they see half the student section there because, oh, finals start in 2 weeks and I'm home on break. Come on. Give me a break, man. When Seton Hall and Villanova used to have the battles back in the mid-2010s, over break, those games were packed. It didn't matter that no one was on campus. Everyone still showed up because their teams were good and they gave us something to root for. Gave us the opportunity to come together and say, we're better than 90% of Division I college basketball teams. And we can hang with anyone and we can beat anyone. Give this team reason to keep playing as hard as they are because they are awesome. They're so fun to watch. They play so fucking hard. And I understand that last year sucked. And it probably wasn't very fun to go to games last year. I cannot blame you for not going to games last year. That I didn't go to a game last year. But the team was also the worst Seton Hall team in the last 30 years. You need to show up for this team because they deserve it. That's all I got. I'm not even sure how long I've been recording. There's not a timer on this new program that I'm using to record myself. But I'm hoping this format works out for the best in the future. I'm looking forward to getting some guests on and testing that out. I'm excited for the future weeks of this pod. And I'm hoping that when I come back next week, that there are some changes made in the front office of a lot of the teams that we've been covering here. So that I'm going to sign off. I will see you guys next time. Until we meet again, Merry Christmas.